everyone. So I know it's been a little while since I have read the next chapters in The Power of Six by Pittacus Lore. I did finish The Outsiders, and I did finish it before the 29th, so that should be good. And now that means I can focus all my time right now on finishing up this book. So, without further ado, I'm going to pick back up where we left off, which was chapter 27, and I think what I'm going to do is, because it has been so long and because I have done so many chapters for The Outsiders, I'll probably read maybe for an hour. Hopefully that's fair. Okay, well, with that, let's get started. A growl comes from my left, and I lift my head to see another man in a trench coat with long brown hair. I rush to my feet as the Mogadorian lifts his hand. A flash of light comes from it, and it hits me hard in the left shoulder, sending me flying backwards. The pain is instant and blinding. It runs down my arm, white hot, as though electricity has hit the bone and travels through it. My left hand feels dead, and with my right I reach up and touch the new gash on my shoulder. I lift my head and look up hopelessly at the Mogadorian. The charm, I think. Adelina told me when we traveled that I couldn't be killed unless it was in the order set by the elders. This wound could be bad enough to kill me. I look down at my ankle to see if there are 6 scars instead of the 3 I've been living with for the last several months, but nothing has changed. Then how can I be killed? How can I be hurt this badly? Unless the charm has been broken. My eyes meet the Mogadorian's, and he bursts into a heap of ash. For a crazy moment, I think the intensity of my own thoughts is what killed him. But then I see that just standing behind him is the Mogadorian from the cafe, the one with the book, the one I've been running from. I don't understand. Does their selfishness run so deep that they'll kill one another to be the one that kills me? "Marina," he says. I can kill you," I say in a shaky voice full of sorrow. The blood continues flowing from my shoulder and runs down my arm. I look over at Adelina's body and start to cry. "I'm not who you think I am," he says, jogging over to me and reaching out his hand. "Time is extremely short," he says. "I'm one of you, and I'm here to help." I take his hand. What other choice do I have? He pulls me up, and from the nave before any others arrive, he leads me down the northern hallway into the second floor, heading towards the belfry tower. My shoulder screams in pain with each step. "Who are you?" I ask. 100 different questions race through my head. If he's one of us, then why did it take him so long to tell me? Why torture me into believing he was one of them? Can I even trust him? "Shh," he whispers. "Keep quiet." The musty hallway is silent, and as it narrows, I hear dozens of heavy footsteps on the floor below us. Finally, we reach the oak door. It opens just a crack, and a girl's head sticks out. I gasp. Auburn hair, curious brown eyes, small features. She's older by years, but there's no mistaking that it's her. "Ella?" I ask. She looks 11 years old, maybe 12. Her face, which brightens at the sight of me, is more slender now. Ella pulls the door open so we can enter. "Hi, Marina," she says in a voice I don't recognize. The man pulls me in, shutting the door. He wedges a thick wooden board between the door and the bottom stair, and the 3 of us rush up the circular stone stairs. When we get to the belfry, I take another look at Ella. All I can do is stare at her, wide-eyed and confused, no longer feeling the blood rolling down my arm, dripping from my fingertips. "Marina, my name is Creighton," the man says. "I'm sorry about your C-Pan. I wish I'd gotten there sooner." "Adelina's dead?" the older version of Ella asks. "I don't understand," I say, still staring at Ella. "We'll explain it to you all. We'll explain it all to you, I promise. There isn't much time. You're losing a lot of blood," Creighton says. "You can heal people, correct? Can you heal yourself?" With all the confusion and running, I hadn't considered healing myself. But when I place the palm of my right hand over the gaping wound, I try it. The iciness tickles as the gash closes itself and the dead numbness is pushed from my hand and arm. After 30 seconds, I'm as good as new. "Please be more careful with this," Creighton says. "It's far more vital than you know." I look to where he's pointing. "My chest!" There's an explosion nearby. The tower sways, and dust and rocks drop from the ceiling and walls. More rocks fall as another blast takes me off my feet. I use my telekinesis to stop their descent, and I fling them out the window. They're searching for us, and it's not going to take long until they realize where we are, he says. He looks at Ella, then at me. She's one of you, a member of the guard from Lorien. But she's not old enough, I say, shaking my head, unable to replace the younger version I've come to know with this older one. I don't get it. Do you know what an Aeternus is? Aeternus? I don't know. I shake my head. Show her, Ella. While standing in front of me, Ella begins to change. Her arms shorten and her shoulders narrow. She loses 20 centimeters of height and her weight drops significantly. The shrinking of her face shocks me the most, and quickly she looks like the tiny girl I've come to love. She's an Aeternus, Creighton says. She's able to move back and forth between different ages. I didn't know that was possible, I stutter. Ella's 11 years old, he says. She came with me on a second ship from Lorien that left after yours. She was just a baby, only hours old. Loridus, the last remaining elder, sacrificed himself so that Ella could assume his role and grow into his powers. As I'm looking at Creighton, Ella slips her hand into mine, as she's done so many times before. But it feels different now. I glance over and see that she's returned to the older, taller version of herself. Recognizing my discomfort, Ella shrinks back down, the 4 years quickly melting away until she's 7 again. She's the 10th child, he says, the 10th elder. We created a rumor about her backstory, her parents dying in a car accident, and we sent her here to live with you, to watch over you, and be the eyes I needed. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you the truth, Marina, she says in her soft voice, but I'm the best secret keeper in the whole world, just like you said. I know you are, I say. I was just waiting for Adelina to give you your chest, she says, smiling. Do you know who the 10th elder was? Creighton asks. Changing his age is how Loridus was able to live as long as he did, even after the other elders had passed away. Each time he grew old, he made himself young again, and assumed the vitality that comes with it. Are you Ella Seapan? Only in the surrogate sense of the word. Since she was just born, she hadn't been assigned to Seapan yet. I thought you were a Mogadorian, I say. I know, but only because you misinterpreted the clues. This morning, when I was talking to Hector, I was trying to show you I was a friend. But why didn't you just come and get me when you arrived? Why send Ella in? I tried approaching Adelina first, but she cast me out the second she knew who I was, and we needed you to have your chest. I couldn't pull you away without it, he says. So I sent Ella in, and she started looking for it even before you asked her to. The Mogadorians have known your general location for a good while now, and I've done my best to keep them off your trail, killing some, well, killing most, but also planting stories in villages hundreds of miles away, about kids doing amazing things, like about a boy who lifted a car above his head and a girl who could walk across a lake. It was working until they discovered you in Santa Teresa, but even then, they still didn't know which one you were. Then Ella found the chest and you opened it, and that's when I came here, to talk to you in private. When you opened the chest, it led the Mogadorians right here. Because I opened the chest? Yes. Go ahead, open it up now. I let go of Ella's hand and grab hold of the lock. I'm sick thinking that I'm able to open it on my own, now that Adelina is dead. I remove the lock and toss the lid open. The small crystal is still glowing a faint blue. Don't touch that, he says. The fact that it's glowing means a macrocosm is in orbit somewhere. If you touch it now, it will tell them exactly where you are. I don't know whose macrocosm is operational, but I'm pretty sure the Mogadorians have stolen somebody's, he finishes. I haven't the slightest idea of what he's talking about. I haven't the slightest idea of what he's talking about. Macrocosm? I ask. He shakes his head, frustrated. There isn't time to explain it all, he says. Relock it. He opens his mouth to say more, but is interrupted by banging on the door at the bottom of the stairs. We can hear muffled bursts of foreign voices. We have to go, Creighton says, rushing to the back of the room and grabbing a large black suitcase. He flings it open, revealing 10 different guns, a handful of grenades, several daggers. He shrugs his coat to the floor and reveals a leather vest, and he rushes to strap every piece of weaponry to it before slipping his coat back on. The Mogadorians ram the door below with a heavy object, and we hear footsteps enter the stairwell. Creighton removes one of the guns and snaps a clip into it. "The burning symbol on the mountain," I say. "Was it you?" He nods. "I waited too long, I'm afraid, and when you opened the chest it became impossible to slip away under their gaze. So I created the biggest beacon I could, and now we have to hope the others have seen it, and that they're on their way. Otherwise," he trails off. Otherwise we're out of options. We have to get to the lake now. It's our only chance." I have no idea what lake he's talking about, or why he wants to go there, but my whole body's trembling. I just want to get away. The footsteps are closer. Ella grabs hold of my hand, back to her 11-year-old self. Creighton pulls the slide on the gun, and I hear a bullet clicking into place. He aims it at the belfry's entryway. "You have a very good friend in town," he says. "Hector?" I ask, suddenly understanding why the two of them were talking in the cafe this morning. Creighton wasn't spreading lies, but rather telling the truth. "Yes, and let's hope he keeps his word." "Hector will," I say, certain that's true, regardless of what Creighton has asked him to do. "It's in his name," I add. "Grab the chest," Creighton says. I reach down and take the chest in my left arm just as we hear the footsteps reach the last curves of the stairwell. "Both of you, stay close to me," Creighton says, his eyes moving from Ella to me. She was born able to change ages, but she's young and hasn't developed any legacies yet. Oh, he's saying this. Sorry. "She was born able to change ages, but she's young and hasn't developed any legacies yet. Keep her close and don't let go of that chest." "Don't worry, Marina. I'm fast," she says, smiling. "You two ready?" "Ready," Ella says, tightening her hand around mine. "They're all going to be wearing body armor that would stop almost every bullet here on Earth," Creighton says. "But I've soaked mine in Loricide, and there isn't a shield here that could stop them. I'm going to mow every damn one of them down." His eyes narrow. "Keep your fingers crossed that Hector's outside the gates waiting for us." "He'll be there," I say. Then Creighton pulls the trigger, and he doesn't let go until every bullet's been fired. Chapter 28. We keep the windows down, saying little, unnerved by the task ahead. Sam keeps a firm grip on the wheel as the highway winds through Virginia. "You think Xxix will make it?" Sam asks. "I'm sure she'll make it, but who knows what she'll find." That was a hell of a kiss you two had." I open my mouth and then shut it. A minute later, I say, "She likes you too, you know." "Yeah, as a friend." "Actually, Sam, she likes you." Sam blushes. "Sure, I could tell by the way she shoved her tongue in your mouth." "She kissed you too, dude. I saw it." I slap him in the chest with the back of my hand, and I can see he's replaying the kiss in his mind. "After I kissed her, I asked if she knew you liked her, and..." We're jerked over the double yellow line on the road. "You did what?" "Dude, relax. Don't kill us." Sam glides us back onto our side of the road. "She said she liked you too." A devilish grin spreads across Sam's face. "Interesting. It's kind of hard to believe this," Sam finally says. "God, Sam, why would I lie about it?" "No, I can't believe that this whole thing is real. That you're real, or that Xxix is real, or that a hostile race of aliens has scattered themselves across the planet and nobody seems to know it. I mean, they've hollowed out a mountain in the middle of the state. How has it not been found? What did they do with all the dirt and rocks they removed? Even as scarcely populated as parts of West Virginia are, surely somebody had to stumble across it at some point. Hikers or hunters, pilots of small planes. What about satellite imaging? And who knows how many other base camps or outposts or whatever you want to call them they have on Earth. I just don't understand how they move about so freely." "I agree," I say. "I don't know how either, but something tells me we probably don't know the half of it. You remember the very first conspiracy theory you told me?" "No," Sam says. "We were talking about an entire Montana town being abducted, and you said the government allowed abductions in exchange for technology. Remember now?" "Vaguely, sure." "Well, that makes sense now. Maybe technology has nothing to do with it, and maybe the government isn't allowing abductions, but I really think some agreement has to be in place. Because you're right, there's no way they're traveling unnoticed. There are Way, way, way too many of them. Sam doesn't respond. I look over and see that he's smiling. Sam? I ask. I was just thinking of where I might be at this exact moment if you guys hadn't come along. Probably alone in my basement collecting more conspiracy theories and wondering if my dad's still alive. That's how it was for years. But what's awesome is that I really do believe he's alive now. He's somewhere, John. I know it. And I know it because of you guys. I hope so, I say. It's pretty cool that Henry came to Ohio to try to find him, and you and I became friends almost immediately. It's like fate. Sam smiles. Or a cosmic aligning. Nerd, I say. After a pause, Sam asks, Hey, John, you're positive that skeleton in the well wasn't my dad, right? Absolutely, dude. He was Lorik and huge, bigger than any human. What's your best guess then? Who was it? I really don't know. I just hope he wasn't too important. 4 hours pass, and finally we see a sign pointing the way to Anstead, 6 miles ahead. We fall silent. Sam makes the turn and navigates a precarious two-lane road that twists up the mountain until we pass the town's border. We drive through it and turn left at the only stoplight in town. Hawk's Nest, right? Yep, a mile or two down the road. I say, and it's there we'll find the map that Xxix drew 3 years ago. The map is exactly where Xxix said it would be, hidden at Hawk's Nest State Park overlooking the New River. Exactly 47 steps down the Gyps Trail, Sam, Bernie Kosar, and I reach a tree with Xxix deeply carved into its side. From there, we leave the trail, taking 30 steps past the tree to the right. That's followed by a hard left turn, and then, a tenth of a mile away, we see a tree that towers over the others. In the small gap at the base of its twisted trunk, safely tucked away in a black plastic box, is the map that leads to the cave. We make our way back to the SUV and drive another 15 miles, ultimately pulling down a muddy, deserted road. It's the closest any road can get us, 5 miles due north of the cave. Sam takes the address Xxix wrote out of his pocket and puts it in the glove compartment. On second thought, he removes it and puts it back into his pocket. As safe as anywhere, he says. I drop the thesaurus and some duct tape into Xxix's backpack, that she left behind, and Sam slips the bag over his shoulders. I flip my dagger over in my hand and then stuff it into my back pocket. We step out and I lock the doors, Bernie Kosar running circles around my legs. There's only a few hours left of daylight, which doesn't leave us much time. Even with the benefit of my hands, I can't imagine finding the cave without the sun to help us along. Sam holds the map in his hands. At its right side, Xxix has drawn a heavy X. A winding path 5 miles long connects the X with where we are now, marked on the map's left side. Along the way, we'll skirt a riverbed while passing various landmarks noted for their physical descriptions, all of which are carefully marked to keep us on track. Turtle Rock, Fisherman's Pole, Circle Plateau, King's Throne, Lover's Kiss, Lookout Point. Sam and I lift our heads at the same time, and we both see the rock a quarter mile away with an uncanny resemblance to a turtle shell. Bernie Kosar barks. I guess we know which direction to head first, Sam says. And off we go, following the path set by the map. There's no trail, nothing that might allude to these mountains having been trampled by beings of another world, or even by beings of this one. Once we reach Turtle Rock, Sam spots a fallen tree that hangs over the cliff side at a 45-degree angle and thus looks like a fishing pole patiently waiting for a bite. And we hike on, following the trail as the sun lowers in the western sky. Each step taken is another chance to turn around and walk away, but neither of us does. You're a hell of a good friend, Sam Good. You're a hell of a friend, Sam Good, I tell him. You're not so bad yourself, he replies, and then, I can't stop my hands from shaking. After passing King's Throne, which is a tall, slender rock that looks like a high back chair, I immediately spot 2 tall trees leaning against one another at slight angles, their branches appearing like arms wrapped around each other in an embrace. And I smile, for a brief moment forgetting how terribly scared I am. Only one more to go, Sam says, pulling me back into the clutches of reality. We reach Lookout Point 5 minutes later. All told, the hike has taken an hour and 10 minutes, and the shadows are long and stretched as the light Last light of dusk drains away. Without warning, a deep growl bellows beside me. I look down. Bernie Kosar's teeth are flashed, his fur bristling along his spine, his eyes pointed in the direction of the cave. He begins backing away from it. "It's okay, Bernie Kosar," I say, patting his back. Sam and I drop to the ground and lay on our stomachs, both staring across the small valley at the cave's almost indiscernible entrance. It's far larger than I'd imagined. Probably 20 feet wide and tall, but also much better hidden. There's something covering it, a net or a tarp maybe, making it blend in with its surroundings. You'd have to know it's there to be able to see it. "Perfect location," Sam whispers. "Totally." My nervousness quickly turns to full-blown terror. As mysterious as the cave is, one thing I know for sure is that there'll be no shortage of things, weapons, beasts, or traps that could kill us. I could die within the next 20 minutes, and Sam could too. "Whose idea was this anyway?" I ask. Sam snorts. "Yours?" "Well, I have some stupid ideas sometimes." "True, but we have to get your chest somehow." "There's so much in there that I don't even know how to use yet, but maybe they do," I say. Then something catches my eye. "Look at the ground in front of the entrance," I say, pointing to a smattering of dark objects by the cave's entrance. At the rocks?" "Those aren't rocks. Those are dead animals," I say. Sam shakes his head. "Great," he says. I shouldn't be surprised since Xxix told us about it, but the sight of them fills me with even more dread, which I didn't think possible. My mind races. "All right," I say, sitting up. "There's no time like the present." I kiss the top of Bernie Kosar's head, then run my hand down the length of his back, hoping this won't be the last time I ever see him. He tells me not to go, and I communicate back that I have to, no other choice. "You're the best, BK. I love you, buddy." Then I stand. I take the bottom of my shirt in my right hand so I can remove the Xxix from the bag without touching it. Sam messes with the buttons on his digital watch, putting it in stopwatch mode. We won't be able to read its face once we're invisible, but when the hour is up, the watch will beep, though I imagine by then we'll have figured it out. "Ready?" I ask. Together we take our first step, then a second. And then we're hiking down the trail that may very well lead to our imminent doom. I turn around only once when I've nearly reached the cave and see Bernie Kosar staring at us. Chapter 29. We get as close to the cave as we can without being seen, and we duck behind a tree. I place the Thesaurus stone on the sticky side of a section of duct tape. Sam watches with his fingers pinched around his stopwatch. "Ready?" I ask. He nods. I press the Thesaurus and the tape to the very bottom of my sternum. I vanish instantly, and Sam hits the watch's button, eliciting a soft digital beep. I snatch Sam's hand, and together we lurch around the tree and speed to the cave. It's all about the task at hand now, and with that in mind, I'm no longer as nervous. The cave is covered with a large camouflage tarp. We navigate through the graveyard of dead animals, being careful not to step on any, which is hard to do without the luxury of seeing your feet. There are no mogs outside, and I hurry forward and flick the tarp aside a little too forcefully. Sam and I stumble in, and 4 guards jump up from their seats and raise cylindrical cannons like the one that was held to my forehead that night in Florida. We stand as still as statues for a brief moment and then quickly sneak past, hoping they'll attribute the tarp's sudden disturbance to the outside wind. There's a cool breeze coming from a ventilation system, and the air is oddly fresh, which I hadn't expected considering it's laced with poisonous gas. The gray walls are polished, smooth like flint. Electrical conduit connects them, lights evenly spaced 20 feet apart. We pass several more scouts and slither by undetected. The anxiety of the ticking clock racks us both with stress. We jog, we sprint, we tiptoe, we walk. And when the tunnel narrows and declines steadily, we sidestep down it. The cool air grows hot and stifling, and a crimson glow at the end of the tunnel comes into view. We shuffle towards it until finally reaching the cave's beating heart. The Cavernous Hall is far larger than I'd imagined based on Xxix's description. A long, continuous ledge runs along the circular walls and spirals all the way, from top to bottom, giving the overall appearance of a beehive, and the place is every bit as busy as one. 2. There are literally hundreds of Mogs in sight, crossing the precarious stone arched bridges, entering and exiting tunnels. The deep floor and the vast ceiling are separated by a half-mile, and Sam and I are situated very close to the middle. 2 massive pillars sprout up from the floor and reach all the way to the ceiling, keeping the whole thing from caving in. The number of passageways around us is endless. My God, Sam whispers in awe, taking it all in. It'd take months to explore this entire thing. My eyes are drawn to the lake of glowing green liquid down below. Even from as far away, the heat off of it makes it hard to breathe. But despite the near roaring temperatures, 20 to 30 Mogs work around it, retrieving carts full of the bubbling stuff and quickly taking it away. Past the green lake, my eyes focus on something else. I think we could pretty much guess what we'll find down that tunnel with the giant bars, I whisper. It's 3 times the height and width of the passageway that carried us here, and a checkered pattern of heavy iron bars covers it, keeping caged whatever beasts are inside. We can hear them howl from below, deep and almost sorrowful. One thing is immediately clear. Their numbers are far from few. It'll literally take months, Sam says again in a disbelieving whisper. Well, we have less than an hour, I whisper back, so we better hurry. I think we can put a big X through all those dark, narrow tunnels that look obstructed. I agree. We should start with the one directly across from us, I say, looking at what appears to be the central room's main artery, wider and better lit than the others, the one with the greatest number of Mogs coming and going. The bridge over to it is just a long arch of solid rock that at most is 2 feet wide. Think you can make it across that archway? We're about to find out, Sam replies. Lead or follow, I ask. Let me lead. Sam takes his first few steps uncertainly. Since we have to keep our hands locked for the first 40 feet or so, we shuffle along sideways. It takes forever, and if we're to get to the other side and back again, there's no way we can do it at this pace. Just don't look down, I say to Sam. Don't be cliché, he responds, squaring his body. We move ahead slowly, and I wish I could see my feet for just this obstacle. I'm so focused on not falling that I don't feel Sam stop ahead of me, which causes me to stumble into him, nearly knocking us both off the bridge. What are you doing? I ask, my heart thudding in my chest. I look up and see why he stopped. Racing towards us is a Mogadorian soldier. He comes charging across in a jog, and he's already so close there's hardly time to react. There's nowhere to go, Sam says. The soldier continues forward, cradling a wrapped bundle in his arms, and when he's close enough, I feel Sam crouch. A second later, the Mog's feet are swept out from under him, completely catching the soldier off guard. He falls over the side of the bridge and catches himself with one hand as the bundle he was carrying drops away. The Mog cries out in pain as my invisible foot crushes his fingers, and he lets go and drops through the air, splattering far below with a sickly thud. Sam races us forward before any further calamities arise. Every single Mog in the area stopped in mid-stride, staring at one another with confused expressions. I wonder if they believed what just happened was an accident, or if they're now on alert. Sam squeezes my hand in relief when we've made it across, and he lurches ahead, having gained a world of confidence from killing the soldier. The next corridor is wide and busy, and it doesn't take long for Sam and me to realize we're heading in the wrong direction. The rooms we pass are exclusively private, and the entire wing seems to be where the Mogs live. Caves with beds, a large open cafeteria with hundreds of tables, a shooting range. We rush down a nearby corridor, but the result is the same, and then we try a third. We follow the winding tunnel deeper into the mountain. Several tributaries lead away from the main drag, and Sam and I randomly turn down them based on nothing more than gut feeling. Aside from the main hall we entered, the rest of the mountain is nothing more than an interconnected network of damp stone corridors, off of which various rooms house research centers with examination tables, computers, and shiny, sharp instruments. We pass several scientific laboratories that we both wish we had the time to investigate further as we rush by. We've probably run a mile, maybe 2, and with each new corridor that turns up nothing, stress floods my veins. We can't have more than 15 minutes left, John. I'm aware of that, I whisper, desperate and irritated and quickly losing hope. When we take the next turn and rush up a steady incline, we pass the thing I'd feared most, a room full of prison cells. Sam stops in mid-stride and keeps a firm grip on my hand, causing me to stop as well. 20 to 30 Mogadorians guard more than 40 cells, all lined up in a row, with heavy steel doors. In front of each door, there's a bubbling blue force field pulsing with electricity. "Look at all those cells," Sam says. I know he's thinking of his dad. "Wait a second," I say, the solution flashing into my head from out of nowhere. It's so obvious. "What?" Sam asks. "I know where the chest is," I say. "Seriously?" "So stupid of me," I whisper. "Sam, if you could pick just one place in this entire hellhole where you'd absolutely refuse to go, where would that place be?" "In the pit with the howling beasts," he answers without a second's hesitation. "Exactly," I say. "Come on, let's go." I lead him back up the corridor that'll empty out at the cave center, but before we've left the cells behind, a door clangs open and Sam jerks his hand to stop me. "Look," he says. The nearest cell door stands wide open. 2 guards enter. They speak angrily for 10 seconds in their native tongue, and when they exit, they're clutching the arms of a pale, emaciated man in his late 20s. He's weak to the point of having trouble walking, and Sam's grip tightens as the guards shove him forward. One of them unlocks a second door, and all 3 disappear through it. "Who do you think they have locked up in there?" he asks as I pull him forward. "We gotta go, Sam," I say. "We don't have the time." "They're torturing humans, John," he says when we finally reach the central hive. "Human beings." "I know," I say, scanning the mammoth room for the quickest route down. There are mogs everywhere, but I've become so used to passing by them that they no longer bother me, and besides, something tells me I'm about to find far scarier things than scouts and soldiers. "People with families who probably have no idea where they've disappeared to," Sam whispers. I know, I say. "Come on, we'll talk about it when we're out of here. Maybe Xxix will have some sort of plan." We sprint around the spiral ledge and start down a tall ladder, but find it's nearly impossible to do so while holding the person's hand above you. I look down. There's still a far way to go. "We have to jump," I say to Sam. "Otherwise, it'll take 10 minutes to get all the way down there." "Jump?" he asks incredulously. "It'll kill us." "Don't worry," I assure him. "I'll catch you." "How the hell are you going to catch me if I'm holding your hand the whole time?" But there isn't time to argue or debate. I take a deep breath and leap from the ledge 100 feet above the cave's bottom. Sam howls, but the continuous clatter of manufacturing drowns out the noise. My feet hit the unyielding stone and the force knocks me backwards, but I keep a firm grip on Sam, who lands on top of me. "Never again are we doing that," he says, standing. The ground floor is so hot it's nearly impossible to breathe, but we sprint around the green lake towards the massive gate, keeping the beasts locked away. When we reach it, a cool wind gusts through the bars, and I realize that the regular blasts of fresh air prevent any of the gas from entering this tunnel. "John, I really don't think there's any time left," Sam pleads. "I know," I say, letting a group of 10 or so mogs exit ahead of us. We enter a dark tunnel. The walls look mucus-covered, and barred chambers line each side of the shaft. Down the middle of the ceiling, 10 huge industrial fans blow, all pointed towards the entry we just came through, keeping the air cool and moist. Some of the locked chambers are small, though others are large, and bursting out of them all are feral and ferocious sounds. In the cage on our left are 20 to 30 crawls jumping over one another while letting loose shrill yips. Imprisoned on our right is a pack of demonic-looking dogs the size of wolves with yellow eyes and no hair. Beside them stands a creature that looks like a troll, complete with a wart-covered nose. In a larger cell across the way, a massive python, not unlike the one who busted through the prison wall that morning, paces back and forth, sniffing the air. "We might as well not even bother with these smaller rooms," I say. "If my chest is here, it'll be in the biggest room at the end of this tunnel. I don't even want to take a guess at what kind of beast needs a door that large to fit through." "We're down to seconds, John. We better hurry then," I say, pulling Sam forward while quickly taking in the different horrors corralled here. Gargoyle-like winged creatures, monsters with 6 arms and red skin, several more pythons standing 20 feet tall, a wide reptilian mutant with trident-shaped horns, a monster with skin so transparent that its internal organs are on display. "Whoa," I say, stopping at a group of rounded tanks and vessels, most of which are silver, though 2 are copper-colored and lined with heat gauges. Some kind of boiler room, I guess. So that's what's keeping this place going, Sam says. This has to be it, I reply. The tallest silo goes to the ceiling, and every tank is connected with heavy pipes, spouts, and aluminum ducts. Beside the silo, a control panel is affixed to the wall with a heap of electrical wires pouring out. Come on, Sam says, impatiently jerking my hand. Together we run the rest of the way to the tunnel's end. There's a massive door, 40 to 50 feet tall and wide, made entirely of steel. To its right is a small wooden door. It's unlocked, and instantly I see why. Holy God, Sam whispers, taking in the beast's enormity. I momentarily stun myself, and all I can do is stare at it, a hulking mass slumped in the room's far corner. Its eyes are closed, and it breathes rhythmically. The beast must be 50 feet tall when standing, and from what I can tell, its dark body is shaped like a man's, but with much longer arms. I want nothing to do with this place, Sam says. You sure? I ask, nudging him so his gaze leaves the monster. Look. There, in the center of the room, at eye level atop a thick stone pedestal, is my chest, and right beside it sits a second one, almost identical in appearance, both of them there for the taking, except for the iron bars around them, which are housed beneath a humming and crackling electrical force field, surrounded by a moat of the steaming green liquid, and the slumbering giant. That's not Xxix's chest, I say. What are you talking about? Who else's would it be? Sam asks, confused. They found us, Sam. In Florida. They found us by opening Xxix's chest. Right, I know. But look at the padlock on it. Why would they put the lock back on a chest that they probably had a hell of a time getting into in the first place? I think that one's never been opened. Maybe you're right. It could be any of ours, I whisper, shaking my head while staring up at them both. Number 5s or 9s or anyone who isn't dead yet. So they stole the chest and didn't kill the guard? Like they did with me, or maybe the Mogs caught one of them and they're being held here like Xxix was, I say. Sam doesn't get a chance to answer, because just then the alarm on his wristwatch begins to beep. 3 seconds later, it's followed by the whine of 100 sirens echoing off the walls of the cave. Ah, hell, I say, turning my head. I can see you, Sam. He nods, a panicked look on his face. He lets go of my hand. I can see you, too. When I look over Sam's shoulder, the beast's eyes have come open, blank and white, narrowing in our direction. Chapter 30. The gunfire makes my ears ring long after it's stopped. Smoke rises from the end of the barrel, but Creighton wastes no time and drops the gun's clip and snaps another in place. Heaping mounds of ash have given the air a thick haze. We stand waiting, Ella and I behind Creighton. He keeps the gun raised, his finger hovering on the trigger. A Mogadorian climbs into the entryway with a cannon of his own, but Creighton fires first, cutting him in half and hurling him backwards. The Mogadorian explodes before he hits the wall. A second jumps into view, wielding the same flashing weapon that tore my shoulder downstairs, but Creighton disposes of it before any light comes forth. Well, they know where we are now. Come on, he yells, rushing forward and down the stairs before I can offer to float us out the window. Ella and I follow, still holding hands. Creighton stops after the second curve of the stairwell, pressing his fingers to his eyes. There's too much ash in my eyes. I can't see anything, he says. Marina, take the lead. If there's anything up ahead, yell and get the hell out of the way. I keep the chest tucked beneath my left arm, and Ella stays in the middle, holding my hand in Creighton's. I lead them down and out the broken oak door just as the tower above us explodes. I scream, ducking down and pulling Ella with me. Creighton instinctively begins firing. The gun unloads a rapid stream of ammunition, 8 to 10 bullets per second, and I can see an entire group of Mogadorians drop. Creighton stops firing. Marina? He asks, nodding his head forward without seeing me. I turn and study the hallway thick with ash. I think it's clear, I say, and the second the words leave my mouth, a Mogadorian leaps out of an open doorway and fires, sending a flashing white meteor raging towards us, too bright to look at. We drop just in time, and the white death misses us by a hair. Creighton quickly lifts the gun and returns a barrage of bullets, killing the Mogadorian instantly. I lead us forward. I have no idea how many of them Creighton just killed, but the ash stands thick on the floor, covering our feet and ankles. We pause at the top of the steps. Light from the windows comes through the fading ash, and Creighton has cleared his eyes. He takes the lead position, clutching the gun tightly to his chest while staying hidden behind the corner. Once we turn, all that separates us from the door leading outside are these steps, a short hallway, the back of the nave, and the main vestibule. Creighton takes a deep breath, nods his head, and then turns, dropping the barrel of the gun, ready to fire. But there's nothing to fire at. "Come on," he grunts. We follow him and he escorts us across the nave's rear, which is black with fire damage. For a brief moment I glimpse Adelina's body, looking small from as far away as we are. My heart aches seeing her. "Be brave, Marina," her words echo. An explosion erupts against the outside wall on our right side. The stones blow inward, and I instinctively lift my hand and prevent any of them from hitting Ella and me. But Creighton gets hit hard, and he smashes against the wall to our left, landing with a grunt. The gun rattles away from him, and a Mogadorian enters the cathedral through the newly created hole. He's holding a cannon, and in one fluid motion, I heave the Mogadorian backwards with my mind, bring Creighton's gun into my hand, and pull the trigger. The gun's kick is a lot harder than I expected, and I almost drop it, but I recover quickly and keep firing until the Mogadorian is reduced to ash. "Here," I say, pushing the gun into Ella's hands. And in the comfortable way she takes it, I can tell she's no stranger to firearms. I rush to Creighton. His arm is broken and blood seeps from gashes on his head and face, but his eyes are open and he seems alert. I slap my hands on his wrist and close my eyes, the iciness crawling over my body and extending to Creighton. I watch the bones in his arm move under the skin and the gashes on his face seal and disappear. His chest expands and contracts so fast I think his lungs are going to explode, but then he's calm again. He sits up and moves his arm fluidly. "Nice job," he says. He takes the gun from Ella, and we climb through the hole in the wall and out into Santa Teresa's front grounds. I don't see a single person as Ella and I run ahead and pass through the iron gates while Creighton sweeps his gun back and forth, looking for any reason to fire it. My eyes are drawn over Creighton's left shoulder to a quick burst of red from the cathedral's roof. With a loud blast, the discharged rocket surges towards Creighton. I stare at the rocket's tip and raise my hands, concentrating harder than I ever have, and at the very last instant I am able to slightly alter the rocket's path. It misses him and angles off towards a mountain where it hits it with a plume of fire. Creighton rushes us through the gates with his eyes alert and the gun aimed. He pulls up and spins around. He shakes his head, and from behind us we hear the church doors thrust open. "He isn't here," Creighton says, and just before he turns around to begin firing, the sound of squealing tires pierces the air. The plastic covering that had kept the truck concealed falls off, and its backside fishtails as Hector, wide-eyed behind the wheel, floors it. He comes racing our way and slams on the brakes when he reaches us. The truck screeches to a halt, and Hector reaches across the seat and throws open the passenger side door. I toss my chest beside Hector, and Ella and I jump in. Creighton stays out just long enough to empty his gun at the Mogadorians emerging from the church door. Several drop, but there are far too many to get them all. Creighton jumps in and slams the door, and the tires bite into the cobblestones in an attempt to find traction. There's the sound of another rocket nearing, but the tires catch and we go racing down Calle Principal. "I love you, Hector," I say. I can't help it. The sight of him behind the wheel fills me with such warmth that it brims over the edge. "I love you too, Marina. I always told you, stick with Hector Ricardo. He'll take care of you." "I never doubted it once," I say, which is a lie. I had doubted it this morning. We reach the bottom of the hill and fly past the signs announcing the town limits. I twist around to peer out the back window as Santa Teresa quickly fades behind us. I know it's the last time I'll ever see it, and though I've waited years to leave, it now holds the sacredness of being Adelina's last resting place. Soon the town is gone, left behind. "Thank you, Señorita Marina," Hector says. "For what?" "I know it was you who cured my dear mother. She told me it was you, that you were her angel, and I'll never be able to repay you for it." "You already have, Hector. I was very happy to help." He shakes his head. "I haven't yet, but I'm going to try." While Creighton refills both clips and takes inventory of his ammo, Hector navigates the windy and unpredictable road. We bounce and skid along and the sharp turns and sudden hills, but despite the speed it doesn't take long for a convoy of vehicles to be seen in the distance behind us. "Don't worry about them," Creighton says. "Just get us to the lake." Even though the truck is barreling down the road, the convoy closes the gap. After 10 minutes, a flash of light sails just over the truck and explodes into the countryside ahead of us. Hector instinctively jerks his head down. "My God!" he says. Creighton turns around and breaks the back window with the butt of his gun, then fires. The lead vehicle is upended, which makes us all cheer in celebration. That should keep them far enough back, Creighton says, quickly reloading the gun's clip. And it does for a few minutes, but as the road grows more precarious and twists down the mountain at sharp declines, the vehicles catch right back up to us. Hector mutters under his breath as he whips around each bend, the gas pedal buried, the truck's back tires swinging frighteningly over the edge of the towering cliff. "Careful, Hector," Creighton says. "Don't kill us before we get there. At least give us a chance." "Hector's in control," Hector replies, bringing no comfort whatsoever to Creighton, who keeps a white-knuckled grip on the headrest in front of him. The only refuge is the road's perpetual turns, which keep the Mogadorians from getting a straight shot, though they try anyway. As we race around a particularly sharp bend, Hector can't turn us quickly enough, and we go off the edge of the road. At a 75-degree angle, the truck races down the dense mountainside, smashing through saplings, bouncing off boulders, barely avoiding thick trees. Ella and I scream. Creighton yells as he flies forward and slams into the windshield. Hector doesn't say a word. He clenches his teeth and maneuvers us around and over obstacles until we miraculously land on another road. The truck's hood is severely dented and smoking, but the engine is still running. "This is a shortcut," Hector says. He tries the gas pedal, and we quickly rumble down the new road. "I think we lost 'em," says Creighton, looking up the cliff. I pat Hector's shoulder and laugh. Creighton sticks the barrel of his gun out the back window and waits. Eventually, the lake comes into view. I wonder why Creighton believes the lake will save us. "What's the big deal about the lake?" I ask. "You didn't think I'd come to find you with just Ella, did you?" For a moment, I think to tell him that up until a few hours ago I thought he'd come to kill me. But soon the Mogadorians appear behind us, and Creighton turns around while Hector's eyes dart up the rearview mirror. "This is going to be close," Creighton says. We'll get out of it, Papa," Ella says, looking at Creighton, and hearing her call him that fills my heart with affection. He smiles warmly at her, then nods. Ella squeezes my hand. "You'll love Olivia," she says to me. "Who's Olivia?" I ask, but she doesn't get a chance to answer before the road turns at a 90-degree angle and declines sharply towards the lake ahead. Ella tenses in my arms as the road ends, and Hector barely lets up on the gas as the truck rams straight through a chain-link gate that surrounds the lake. We hit a slight bump, and the truck's tires leave the ground entirely before landing with a thud and bouncing on the shore. Hector speeds straight for the water, and just before we reach it, he slams on the brakes and brings us skidding to a stop. Creighton shoulders open the passenger side door and dashes towards the lake, rushing straight into the water until it reaches his knees. With the gun still in his left hand, he hurls an object as far as he can with his right and begins muttering something into a language I don't understand. "Come on!" he screams, thrusting his hands up in the air as though offering encouragement. "Come on, Olivia!" Hector, Ella, and I rush out and run up near him. I have the chest under my arm, and in an instant I see that the water has begun to crest and bubble in the lake's middle. "Marina, do you know what a chimera is?" But I don't get to answer, because just then a lone Mogadorian vehicle, a tank-like Humvee with a gun mounted on top, erupts onto the scene and speeds down the hill. As it comes right at us, in the water, Creighton unloads a barrage of bullets into the windshield. The vehicle instantly goes out of control, crashing straight into the back of Hector's truck. It creates a deafening bang, followed by the crash of grinding metal and breaking glass. As the dozens of other vehicles in the convoy rumble down the last hill and begin firing, the world erupts in fire and smoke as explosions rock the beach, causing all four of us to hit the ground. Sand and water rain down, and we scramble back onto our feet. Creighton snags me by the collar. "Get out of here," he yells. I take Ella's hand and we run as fast as we can around the left side of the lake. Creighton begins firing, but it's not one gun that I hear, but two, and I can only hope it's Hector's finger pulling the second trigger. We race towards a cluster of trees sloping down the mountainside, jutting out all the way to the water's bank. Our footsteps slap on the wet stones, and Ella's accelerated pace matches my own. Gunfire continues to rattle through the air, and just as it lets up, a loud animal roar booms over our head, causing me to stop short. I turn to look at the creature able to create such a paralyzing call, knowing it's not of this world. A long, muscular neck protrudes 10 or 15 stories out of the water, the flesh a gleaming gray. At the end of it, a giant lizard head separates its pebbled lips to show an enormous set of teeth. "Olivia!" Ella cheers. Olivia rears her head and lets loose another ear-splitting roar, and in the middle of it a series of high-pitched yipping sounds roll down from the mountain. I look up and see a pack of small beasts descending towards the lake. I gasp. "What are those?" I ask Ella. "Crawls. Lots of them." Olivia's neck is fully emerged and 30 stories high now, and as the rest of her body surfaces, her neck widens and her torso thickens. The Mogadorians immediately fire at her, and Olivia slams her head down on several at a time, creating large piles of ash. I can see the dark figures of Creighton and Hector, both there with guns blazing. The Mogadorians fall back as 100 crawls enter the lake and swim towards Olivia. The creatures leap out of the water and attack. Many claw their way up Olivia's back and rip at the base of her neck. The lake water is soon streaked with blood. "No!" Ella screams. She tries running back, but I grab hold of her arm. "We can't go back," I say. "Olivia!" "That's suicide, Ella. There's too many." Olivia roars in pain. She whips her head at her sides and back, trying to crush or bite the black crawls that have blanketed her. Creighton aims his gun at the beast, but he lowers his weapon when he realizes he would likely shoot Olivia in the process. He and Hector instead fire on the army of Mogadorians lining up and preparing for a new attack. Olivia wavers left and right, howls at the mountains, and backs herself up into the middle of the lake and slowly sinks in a wave of red. The crawls detach and swim towards the Mogadorians. "No!" I hear Creighton yell above the chaos. I watch him try to enter the lake, but Hector pulls him back onto the shore. "Duck!" Ella screams, pulling me down by the arm. A whoosh of air passes over us. A giant black hoof smashes the ground next to me, and I look up to see a horned monster. Its head is as large as Hector's truck, and with a giant roar, my hair flaps into my face. "Come on!" I yell. We race towards the trees. "Split up!" Ella says. I nod and dart left, towards an ancient beech tree with gnarled limbs. I set the chest down and instinctively lift my hands and then pull them apart. To my surprise, the beech trunk opens, creating a hollow space that looks just big enough for 2 people and a chest to fit. I look over my shoulder to see the creature chasing Ella through a dense line of trees. I toss the chest in the open trunk, and with telekinesis I pick up 2 trees and send them like missiles at the creature's back. They splinter against its dark skin with a loud crash, knocking it to its knees. I run and grab Ella's shaking hand, pulling her the other direction. The beech tree with my chest comes into view. "The tree, Ella! Get inside!" I yell. She sits atop the chest and tries to make herself as compact as she can, shrinking down to a younger age. "That's a pike, Marina! Get in!" she pleads, and before she can say another word, I close the trunk up around her, leaving just enough room so she can see. "I'm sorry," I say through the small crevice, hoping the giant didn't see where I've stashed the chest and hidden my friend. I turn and run, trying to lead the pike away, but it soon catches up and knocks me from behind. The force of the hit is shocking, and I fall down a steep slope until my arm finds a boulder to hook around. I look over my shoulder to see that I'm less than a meter from a rocky cliff. The pike appears at the top of the slope. There, it shuffles sideways until it's positioned directly above me. It roars so loudly my mind blanks. I hear Ella scream my name in the distance, but I can't breathe, let alone yell back. It marches down the slope. I raise one of my hands and uproot a small spindly tree near me and launch it at the giant's chest. It impales its chest, and it's enough for the pike to lose its footing, and it falls sideways, shrieking and barreling right at me. I close my eyes and prepare for the impact. But instead of smashing me under its weight and knocking me over the cliff, its body hits the boulder I'm holding on to and then bounces over me. I whip my head over my shoulder to see the pike fall down the rocky cliff. I'm finally able to concentrate enough to float myself up the slope. I hurry back towards the beech tree, to Ella and my chest, and I hear the cannon's blast a split second before I'm shot. The pain is double anything I've felt before, and all I can see is red and flashes of white. I roll around uncontrollably, writhing in agony. "Marina!" I hear Ella scream. I roll onto my back and stare at the sky. Blood drips out of my mouth and nose. I can taste it. I can smell it. A few birds circle overhead as I wait to die. I watch as the sky is taken over by a colossal group of dark, heavy clouds. The clouds crash and roll on top of each other, pulsing as if they're breathing. I think I'm hallucinating, seeing visions before I die. When a massive drop of water hits me on the right cheek, I blink as another hits me above my eye, and then a bolt of lightning splits the sky in two. A huge Mogadorian in gold and black armor stands over me, smiling. He presses a cannon against my temple against my temple and spits on the ground. But before he pulls the trigger, he looks up at the looming storm. I quickly place my hands on the gaping wound in my abdomen, feeling the icy familiarity surge under my skin. Then the oncoming rain washes over me as the clouds become a solid wall of darkness. Okay, so that was the end of chapter 30. Let's see how long chapter 31 is. Chapter 31's pretty long. I would say we're probably at around 56 minutes or so for this video, so that's about an hour. I'd say we made some really good progress. It is getting super interesting, so much action. And so there's a storm a-brewing where Marina is. I wonder what that's gonna be about. Anyway, let me know what you think of the book so far in the comments below. If you like this video, hit me, give me that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, and go ahead and hit that notification bell. Okay, that's it for now. Reading by Ree. Until next time, bye!